All right, so we are now live. Hey everyone, how's it going? Happy Wednesday. Want to do another training today. And we got a special guest, Chris Dayton.
Yeah, let's go.
If you guys don't know, Chris is a very successful real estate investor. He's a real estate broker. He has this huge resume of success. He spoke at our Key West event that we had 2 months ago now, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Right.
We were in Key West and he was the MC and he spoke in stages of 5,000 people and he was commanding the stage in Key West and it was awesome to have him. Um, but and comment down below if you guys are watching this live. Comment, if you are watching this, if you guys can see this, and let me know because I'm looking for the comments and where you're watching it from. We're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these different platforms. And but so last week we talked about me walking away from a $1.5 million deal and how hard that was, right? And I was really excited for the deal. And I was telling Chris about this. And he was like, dude, he's asking me all these questions. He's like, you got to tell me more about this. I was like, you know what? How about, we do this publicly, right? All the questions you have for me, we just do this publicly. And then we can all like uncover this deal.
Yeah, I mean, dude, for real. And thanks for having me on. And we should probably do this more often. But yeah, I'm sitting there with Aaron and I'm like, dude, did you see that video with Mike? He's like, yeah. I go, so that deal's dead. And it looked great. It's just, we're going to reset this because for me, I'm kind of like Tommy Boy. You know, I get excited. I'm like, oh, there's my pretty new multifamily deal. And I get all excited and I'm like, ah! And then it's dead. And that's when people like us have to forge ahead. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah, that's it. When unexpected things come out, you gotta move
Yeah.
and maneuver. So that's funny.
Let's reset
I
the
love that
table.
Tommy
Like,
Boy reference.
what was the deal? Because it was in North Carolina. Just like share with everybody, like, what's the deal?
Yeah, so this was like a perfect opportunity for us because this is in North Carolina where we already have 35 apartment units, right? We
Right.
have the management in place, we have the renovation team in place, and those are really hard to come across. Like when you are buying a out of state property, you have to make sure you have a really good management company and a really good construction company to do the renovations and the unit turns, right? And we have both of those. So we've already done like the hard work of finding the right team and put the team in place. So now we just have to find the right deal. And we came across this will look like a perfect deal, but then it just like didn't work out.
Right. So then you get it under like LOI, right? You wrote the LOI, kind of came to terms with the seller, and
Yeah,
then it
so we
got
were actually even under contract. We signed the purchase agreement.
okay.
So we were under contract to buy. We had the money lined up from our investors. They were ready to go. They were calling me while I was at the property like, "Mike, like when do we wire the money? Like, let's go." Right? Everyone is like ready. And I had to pull the plug.
Yeah. So you get to the property because you woke up at 4 in the morning, as the story goes. You cruise up to North Carolina. You're amped up. Also like when you do an inspection on a property that big, it's not just like you cruising around. There's a whole team of people. So it's a big event for that day. It's you just didn't show up and be like, hey, I think we'll walk around the property today. It's nope, this is scheduled. You've got people lined up, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So what we had was the property inspectors. They were $2,500 to inspect the units with me, and then we had sewer line scope. So we had people come out and scope the sewer lines for any tree roots to make sure that the sewer lines are in good condition because those can be very expensive to replace. That was $1,000. Then we had our environmental team there, and they do a phase 1 environmental report to make sure that there's no chemicals or oil or storage tanks at this property. And that's another $3,000. If you add all that up, it was a $6,000 day just to bring everyone out there to do the inspections on the property.
So what'd you uncover? You get there. What made this go from like, okay, this is a good deal to okay, there's a couple issues. And then the unfortunate, which is what you chose, but how did you get to, man, I'm not doing this. We're walking away. Because that's,
Yeah.
you go in with the best of intentions, but the whole idea of an inspection is really, to uncover, make sure you don't step into anything bad. And for you, mentioned that it was a no deal for you.
Yeah, and that's a good question because unfortunately, not everyone's always honest in this business. So I made sure to ask these questions before we went out to the property, right? Like, what is the plumbing? Because it's very important to understand what the plumbing is. Because some of the buildings are built in 1930, the rest are built in 1980. But the ones in 1930, I said, what is the plumbing? Like, oh, it's copper plumbing, which is good. You want copper plumbing, right? And I was concerned about it being galvanized plumbing, which is what they used to use. And with galvanized plumbing, the problem with that is after a while, the pipe actually starts to swell up, and the water pressure gets really, really low. And then also inside can actually create lead. So then now your water is contaminated, right? And you really don't want contaminated water. So that was one of the first things I asked for, like, what is the plumbing before I go out there and spend all this money? And they're like, it's copper, don't worry. And the first thing I see is galvanized plumbing.
And how much of that do you attribute to the fact that an agent or a broker simply, or even the seller, just doesn't know that stuff? They're looking at the business, they're looking like, oh, I'm looking at rents, I'm looking at this. I don't really know those fine details of like the materials of my building.
And that's a strong possibility. The or the current owner, bought it a few years ago. I don't think he is a real estate professional because, their rent collections are only 70% of what they are charging. So right off the bat kind of tells you, hey, they're only collecting 70% of the rents that they should be collecting. That's really bad, right? If should be collecting $300,000 a year and you're only collecting 200,000, that's not good.
Right? That's a great way to go out of business.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, so then you see the plumbing. Was it just the lead, that idea that there could be lead base, or the I don't know, like the misdirection that they provided to you? Is that what kind of like you're like, what else am I going to find here?
Yeah, so good question. So, having experience, I've bought and fixed flip probably like close to 100 houses now. Have a lot of construction experience. I know what to look for, but I like to even bring inspectors to double check my work, right?
Right.
Um, but so I see that. So then, how to solve that problem is you have to go in, you have to cut out all the plumbing, and then replumb the entire building. It's a two-story building, and you have to run up all the walls, redo the showers, the faucets, the toilets, everything. So that's a very expensive task. And then the next thing I saw was asbestos wrapped plumbing. Asbestos was used back in the day for fire prevention. And I'm sure a lot of us know now that um, asbestos, it's not healthy, right? And it's not good. And it can contaminate, the air and you if disturbed. So I saw, asbestos wrapped plumbing. I was like, oh no, now I got to rip all the plumbing out, the water lines and the sewer lines. Okay. Then what else do I see? Mold, which is fine. I'm used to fixing mold.
Okay.
But then I saw foundation walls bowing in, and I saw sewage on the ground,
Mm-mm.
and I saw one of the biggest things. This is like the nail in the coffin was the floor joists. The foundation was all rotted away from termites. Like you could put your finger through the wood, right? And that's really not good. That's structural issues. So you got walls bowing in. So you have to either basically rebuild the whole building or tear it down and start again.
That costs a lot of money. New construction,
Yeah.
demo, the environmental part of it.
And
So
I
what
want
did
to
you end up?
add to
What did you?
what you
I
said
just
earlier.
go ahead. Finish your thought.
Sorry for interrupting, but I want to add to what you said earlier because I don't know if it was the seller's intention to be maybe deceitful, but I think a lot of investors, especially last few years with real estate being very sexy, a lot of new investors got into this business not knowing, really understanding real estate and construction, right? And now the seller has this property that he's going to have a really hard time selling right now and it's only producing 70% of what it should be. And he's going to be, stuck with that, or he's going to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to remedy that.
Yeah, so that was like leading into that is, I guess, what did you end up telling the seller? Did you just say, "Hey, thanks for the opportunity, but we're going to take a pass," or did you actually lay it out for him and be like, "Hey, you're going to have some pretty serious things that going to need to be resolved and disclosed moving forward"? Like, how did you handle that?
Yeah, so I just let them know. I said, I'm sorry, but I cannot pay, what the agreed upon price, because I was under the assumptions that it was copper and that it was safe. I asked if there's any renovations needed to the property when I wrote the offer. Said any renovations, let me know. I don't care. Just let me know what it is. And he said there's no renovations needed. And there's also like there's actually a lot of there. So we saw that, and then on the exterior, we saw about another $50,000 on the exterior as well. So this was quickly adding up. We're talking about a couple $100,000 in the buildings. We're talking about 50, 75,000 on the exterior for a property that doesn't need any renovations, right? So I just let them know I cannot pay anywhere near this price because of um, the renovations needed. And with what the seller paid for it and what we would need it at, the seller would actually have to take a loss on the property, and he just wasn't interested in renegotiating. So right
So
now
that was
he's going
the
to
next
be.
question. Did you throw
Yeah,
out the number like, "Hey, I know we were here, but based on what I found, now we're
yeah,
we're down here"?
yeah,
Did you
yeah,
like throw
and
that out to them and
yeah.
see like, okay,
Yeah, and that's the thing. I always like because I'm not scared of work, but I was telling them like literally like this building we're gonna have to rip it down. You're gonna have to pay me to rip down this building because with the amount of money we're gonna be putting into it, and there's only, gosh, I think 4 or 5 units in that building. It just really damages everything else.
perfect. Because see, this was the crux of where I was like, oh man, this is a good deal, but then it's not a good deal. But there's always a deal. It's just a matter of doing your due diligence and then adjusting your numbers to be reflective. And then it's up to the two parties, right? Because I personally never liked the deal to die on my end. I want someone to tell me no. Like,
Hmm.
but I'm also looking for reasons to not do the deal. One of the things I learned from you and how we approach things and why it's so important is because we're looking for reasons not to do the deal and to make sure that we're doing it right. And you taught me that, right? Because one of your core principles is take care of your investors. Maybe expound on that a little bit and share with everybody. Because I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really one of the most fundamental things in investing.
So that's a really good point. And whenever we go under contract on a property, like Chris was saying, we always look for reasons to not buy the deal. And it sounds counterintuitive, but we're always looking for reasons to like what could go wrong, right? Always worst case scenario. And we do this
Hmm.
to protect us and our investors' capital in the deals. Like we have to, think ahead. And unfortunately, I see a lot of new investors in this business and they just want to get the deal. They want to get their first deal or they want to get the next one. They want to have those units under management. They want to get, that rush, that feeling, whatever it is, feed that ego. And then, sometimes they get put in bad spots. So I've always said, in the flipping business, I've said this, it's better to do one great deal is better than four okay deals, because the four okay deals you can lose 10,000 on one, maybe make 5 to 10,000 on another, and so on and so on, and then you do all that work, that time, money, and energy, and then you have nothing to show for it, or very little to show for it. Where I could just do one really great deal, make $60,000, and that's better than those four okay deals, right? So I'm used to kind of saying no, and I think it's saying no is such a powerful thing, especially in real estate investing, to just learn how to say no. Don't fudge the numbers, and just remember there will always be a next deal.
Yeah. The power of negotiation, the power to walk away is the number one, strength positioning that you can have. And as long as you're comfortable and you know what you know your numbers, you got the good team around you. I guess, at the end of the day, you know what, Mike, you're not crazy, my man. You're one of the best. So me and Aaron were like, hell yeah, Mike Menino on top of it. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
So even though I
well,
had
that's
I
now.
lost $6,000 in a day. I got up at 4 in the morning. I was all excited. My investors were excited, and I had to pull the plug, right? But that shows you like how good our team is, right? Like Chris is on our team, our multifamily team. Like our team is really good, and we take care of our investors. We always look out for everyone's best interests, and we're not afraid to say no. Even like I lost money personally. None of my investors did. You know, when I went out there for $6,000, I lost money. I took that loss, and I'm okay with that. Now I can sleep at night knowing that I had everyone's best interests in mind.
Well, that's even part of it too. Like we don't even bring our investors in until we actually have gone through and made sure that this is an actual deal. We're not going to deploy their capital and put their capital at risk.
Hmm.
So that's one of the reasons a lot of people want to work with us. So, but hey, man, 15 minutes, good quick interview. Love having
Yeah,
you
man.
on. Thanks for having me on. It's fun on a Wednesday, right? It's hump day. Let's go.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. It feels like a Tuesday. I don't know what day it is. We got a couple other deals that we're working on. Super excited. I'll be able to share this publicly, I think next week. But we got some really cool stuff that we're working on. And so I think next Wednesday trading will be really, really cool. I'll be able to share some deals that we've hopefully have already bought by then. It'll be like, it'd be so cool.
Heck yeah. Looking forward to it, man. All right.
All right, guys. All right, guys. I'll see you. Bye.